Okay. Welcome, everybody. It's nice to see you today. And I see some familiar faces and some new faces, which we always love. We hope that you will mingle while you're here and get to know each other. We are all partners in the cause, whatever that cause is, right? And we do need to get acquainted and know our buddies in this business. There are IHC members here. Please identify yourselves. Just wave your hands so everybody knows who you are. There you go. So please talk to each other, get to know each other. And I have the distinct pleasure of introducing Michelle Richards, who is our new director of programs. So yay, Michelle. And her husband's here to give her support today because this is her first event. So we're happy to have the family here. Pam is not here today. She usually is, but she's off doing her mission advancement work, which is really what she was hired to do. Last year, she did a lot of programming for us. So the torch is being passed to Michelle, and we're very blessed to have her with us. So thank you. She'll be talking to you in a minute. So in preparing for today, I was learning about the wall Las Memorias, and I had never heard about it before. But as I was reading and looking at the website, I was reflecting on systemic racism and all of the impacts it has on individual people who are not white. And I think that one of the most damaging and most inhumane impacts of a systemic racism is the impact on healthcare. And the health disparities that are in our Black and Latino communities are unconscionable in our society that has so much wealth. And then when you layer on top of that the discrimination against individuals within the LGBTQ communities and the misinformation and disinformation about diseases like HIV/AIDS, there's a dynamic there that's almost mind-boggling, isn't it? And yet there are people like Richard Zaldivar. Did I get that right, Richard? Zaldivar. There we go. I got the D in the wrong place. Okay. People like Richard who recognize the need, embrace the situation, and step up to make a difference. And Richard, you're one of what I'm starting to call our local change maker heroes. The IHC likes to spotlight and recognize people like you in our monthly Lunch and Learn series. And we're here today to educate each other, but also to create a stream of consciousness about the topics that Richard is going to be talking to us about. So one of the goals that we have in holding these monthly Lunch and Learns is to implement the IHC goal statement. And I'm going to read it to you, quote, "It calls us to build relations in society which foster access to all persons to truth, dignity, and full human development, and to strategically change practices and situations which impede such access." So we meet regularly on a monthly basis to give ourselves an opportunity to begin to form those relationships with partners like you. So thank you all for being here today. Our IHC has commissions which focus on justice for women, the environment, immigrants, refugees, and Indigenous people, and people who are unhoused. We anchor that work in the community through a three-step process. So first, we seek to educate ourselves. So that's what we're doing today. Then we engage in prayer. So our members hold these issues in prayer, and we ask that you do the same within your own faith tradition. And then finally, when you come to a Lunch and Learn, there's a call to action. So we ask you today, as you listen to Richard, think about ways you can act based on what he is talking to us about. Listen for one or two things that you might be able to do, no matter how small, that make a difference to raise awareness to advance these issues. So Michelle's going to be talking to us in a minute about more lunch and learns. We hope to see you at other IHC events, and we have a big one coming up in July. Put July 17th on your calendar. Again, this year we're going to be sponsoring the LA International Short Film Festival. It's over at LA Live at the Regal Cinema. So look at our website for more information about that. If you're not on our mailing list, be sure to sign up. There's also going to be some really cool volunteer opportunities coming up soon that Michelle will be telling you about in future meetings. We do accept new members annually, and if you're interested in membership, please let us know that also. So thank you for coming, and I'm going to turn this over to Michelle to introduce Richard. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello. It's okay. Everybody hear me? Okay. Welcome, everybody. I'm thrilled to be here as staff with the Immaculate Heart community. And as Sherry alluded to, my goal, my charge is really to grow our footprint in the neighborhood, connect with other organizations who are doing the work, and really put a face on these issues that impact each of us, even if we're not directly impacted by the policies that keep people living in poverty. It impacts our life, and it's not right. We need to make a change. So Richard is the founder and executive director of the Wall Las Memorias. We will send a link out at the end of the event, so you can rewatch this and you can share it with others, and you'll get information about where to go and how to visit Las Memorias. And the project is dedicated to promoting wellness with a sensitivity to spiritual needs of individuals with a commitment to social justice. So we align greatly with that mission statement. And under Richard's leadership, Las Memorias, the Wall, has been at the forefront of the fight against HIV and AIDS in Los Angeles and beyond. I'm grateful that your team is here also, and we have new friends, and I look forward to building that relationship. This was really struck me about Richard. At the age of 17, he served as president of a local youth group to organize community meetings and engagement with the youth. So I think that's also a charge that we have, to see our actions touching young people and giving them access to things that they can do to change the world right now. So so much of the work that's done at Las Memorias, the Wall, aligns with our work at Immaculate Heart. I'm grateful for that. And without further ado, one other thing. Restrooms are at either end. Sorry about that. Should have led with that. And this is being recorded, so you know that. And the refreshments are here. Thanks to Chef Tim and for preparing the food for us. Richard, please join us, and thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much for that kind introduction, and good morning to all of you. Good afternoon, I should say. I like to, I thought it was my phone in my pocket. So I want to, where do I start? My name is Richard Zaldivar, and this is the way I always introduce myself. I am Hispanic. I'm gay. I'm Catholic, I'm a Democrat, and I'm a Dodger fan. So that's who I am. And it's important that I share that, because I remember back when I was young, I had no way of identifying who I was. Today, I get to identify and I get to believe and have faith in who I am. And it's the foundation of where I'm at today in my life. A little bit about me, and then I'll get into my spiritual journey. First of all, I want to say this is the second group of spiritual leaders that I've been able to talk to in the last 9 months. The first one was the Presentation Sisters that were housed over at Loretto for some time, and spoke to some of those sisters in retirement and some of the associates from San Francisco. And so I want to just tell you that this is so special to me to be with all of you today in a spiritual setting, considering where our world is today. If you go on Twitter or the news, you know what's kind of happening. So this is a safe space, God's space. So I was born in Los Angeles. My father was born in Mexico in Zacatecas. My mother was born in Arizona in Nogales. They came to LA. They met at Lincoln High School in Northeast Los Angeles. They got married. They had 3 children. I'm the second child, middle child. And we all went to Catholic school. I went to All Saints School in El Sereno. I had a wonderful experience there with the Dominican Sisters of Wisconsin. I went on to go and graduate from Cathedral High School, where my other brothers also graduated, and also played a key role in saving Cathedral when they tried to close it down. But going back to the Immaculate Heart community, I remember back in grammar school, I believe, when I was a child, I guess this might happen to a lot of gay men, Catholic gay men. I wanted to be a priest. And I read a lot, and I paid attention to the politics. And I remember what happened with the Archdiocese and the Immaculate Heart community. I remember it so well. But back then, I was very quiet and introverted. And I was just always studying the politics because I love politics, right? And so I went to Cathedral High School. We saved Cathedral High School when the Archdiocese wanted to sell the property to an investor. We organized, and my former boss, Councilman Art Snyder, had the property declared a historical monument. So they could have sold the property, but not tear down the buildings. So as soon as that happened in the council chambers, they backed off, and the school today is thriving there at Cathedral. But when I was a kid, as I mentioned, I wanted to be a priest. I wanted to do good for other people. And I get emotional because for me, I live to give back. And the work that I do, we continue to give back. Because when I was a child, I remember I was very sick with asthma. And I was 6 years old. I remember going to a doctor in Lincoln Heights, and my grandfather carrying me into the doctor's office. And the doctor told my mom, if you came any later, he would have died. And so I got rid of asthma. I outgrew it when I was 12. I had an amazing mother, a great family. And so I had a great life as a young person. It wasn't always easy. Both my parents were alcoholic. And so it was sometimes very lonely for me. And because of my illness with asthma, I was always a C student because I had to lose a lot of school. And so as I grew up, I got to work for a city councilman when I was 21, stayed with him for about 14 years. I did a lot of work on national democratic politics for several years. And then I realized I bottomed out from alcoholism. And that was very difficult for me. Probably was more difficult being an active alcoholic, because when you're a Catholic boy who's raised as a Hispanic, there's a lot of things that you don't talk about. We're taught to be silent. I remember, growing up, my brother and I were arguing in the house. My mom would say, don't yell too loud because the neighbors might hear. Or the saying, right? Whatever happens in these 4 walls stays in these 4 walls. And so I didn't get a chance to share a lot about what I was going through as a child with an alcoholic, and also growing up not knowing who I was. And so during that period of time, I didn't go to church because I felt I was disconnected from God or the universe, a sense of spiritual, being grounded spiritually. And as I worked so hard in the community for 15 years on the east side of Los Angeles, I was a field deputy in El Sereno. I worked in Boyle Heights, El Sereno, Highland Park, and Eagle Rock. We did great work, and I worked hard. And I also learned to drink hard because I needed to drink my way and to code up my feelings and suppress my emotions, right? Not knowing who I was. And I had some dark times. But I bottomed out from alcoholism, and I said, now what do I do with my life? And my best friend at the time shared with me that he was HIV positive. And that devastated me. Not the fact that he was just HIV positive, but when he shared it with me, he had a face to this day, really frightening, because he felt so rejected, isolated, lonely. And there wasn't much I could do for him. And I started asking questions. Why are people getting HIV? Why are they dying? And so I had to think about my own life and the political and social climate that we were in at the time, right? I remember you could get arrested for being an homosexual. And I remember police going in to bars and raiding bars and pulling people out and beating them up. Same thing with lesbian women. I remember all those times. And back in those days when I worked for the city, I remember going to, this sounds crazy, but working for the city, I would go to gay bars. I'd drive all the way to Long Beach so no one would know me. Like, who would know me? And yeah, and then I would go to the bar, the door of the bar, and I would walk in backwards so that no one would think I'd be walking into a gay bar. And that's how a lot of us lived back in those days. Tremendous fear. And so once my best friend shared that he was HIV positive, I said to myself, maybe I should be doing something for my gay community, and not just for the general community. Maybe I need to focus my attention on the gay community. When I got sober, when there are difficult times in my life, and I'm sure many of us could attest, we sometimes feel lonely until we reach out to a friend. My friend was God. I was severely depressed in my disease of alcoholism, and I remember getting on my knees and asking God for help. But I said, don't help me unless I help myself. The next day, I got my appointment with a psychiatrist. He put me on Prozac, but he says, I'll put you on the antidepressants as long as you start therapy. So he introduced me to this therapist, was with her for 4 years. That started my recovery. And the therapist, we call these God shots in 12-step programs. And the therapist happened to be my same age, Hispanic woman, lesbian, also in recovery. And so she understood the dynamics of my culture and my community and my life. And so with that, I said I wanted to give back, and I shared an idea about building a wall panel for people who died of AIDS, with the Virgin, the Guadalupe in the middle, and then the names of 200 people who died of AIDS. This was in the summer of 1993. And because I wanted the Hispanic community to take ownership for the issue of HIV/AIDS, I wanted it built not in West Hollywood, in the Latino community on the East Side. So one of the first people I went to, because I had all these contacts from my work in City Hall, I went to my friend, Father John Santillan, who has since passed. I told him about the idea. He says, I'm with you. I support you. So he ended up being my first chairman of the board of directors for the Las Memorias. But I also had worked in my previous years with the Mothers of East Los Angeles, of Santa Isabel. And they were just amazing. So I went to them and asking for support. This is a group that was driven by addressing environmental concerns. So if any of you were from LA, you might have remembered there was legislation at one point to move or build a prison downtown and Boyle Heights. And this group fought it. So I went with one of my board members who had full-blown AIDS to meet with Juanita Gutierrez, who was the president and the founder of that group at the time. And we walked into this room, and there was a table, very, very typical Mexican-American household. And you had a whole table of 12 women sitting around the table, talking discussion. And I was going to share the idea about the AIDS monument, get their support. And the back of the wall was the Virgin de Guadalupe. So I'm sitting there, it's our turn to do the presentation, and we started presenting, and they heard from the gentleman, Ron Castillo, who had AIDS. And then I says, I need your support. And so, God, it was really awesome because it was my dream to have a breakthrough in my community, in my culture. And I remember this older woman sitting there very quietly. She's sitting and she's going like this during the entire presentation. And I said to myself, oh, damn, she's going to kick my butt. You know, oh, she's going to be homophobic, right? And she was going there and she raised her head. She goes, I know about AIDS because I watched Christina, the Christina show, right? Years ago on Channel 34. And so the group made the motion and they endorsed it 100%. That group represented 34 parishes on the east side of Los Angeles. So their endorsement meant that we were able to build coalition to address issues that we were not comfortable talking about. With that, we were able to expand our outreach and carry the message that HIV/AIDS was not just a gay disease, it was a human disease that was impacting our community. And so I wanted to do something, I wanted to build a monument. It took me a while. You know, I was on different boards, local board of directors, but I didn't know how to run an agency. So we were founded on December the 1st, 1993. And I started running. I'd go and talk to whoever would listen to me. And some people did listen. And back then, Gil Cedillo was a state assemblyman, and he says, I will support you. So he authored a state members request to identify $400,000 for the AIDS monument. And then Mayor James Hahn at the time came up with $150,000. And there was just enough money to build the first rendition of the AIDS monument. Now, the AIDS monument is for anybody who passed away from AIDS, not only Hispanic community. And so as we were going along, we started building up programs. And so we did HIV prevention. Eventually, we started doing HIV testing. But let me tell you about how spirituality really impacted the way we conducted our health prevention. Okay, I'm Catholic, and so I'm Hispanic, and I take those characteristics wherever I go. So our programs were spiritually based, not religious based. But we served the needs of men at the time that were dealing with identity issues, isolation, discrimination. And so we called ourselves the Latino Men's Group. And at one point, we were serving 99 men a week. Now, at those days, I wasn't really getting a salary. I gave it to my right-hand person, Eddie Martinez, because I wanted him to stay with me. So it was very difficult for me, but I needed to do what I needed to do. I sometimes look back and say, did I do something wrong? But I don't think so, because God continues to bless me every day. And so we would serve those men, but as we had these conversations, we would talk about men's issues in cultural perspectives. And we would talk about God and their connection with God. And then we would end each meeting with a prayer. It was fantastic. We had the best response. Men were turning out to test every 6 months. You know, I think looking back, it gave those men an opportunity to be reacquainted with their creator, whoever that might be to them. That was important. Because if you're a gay man, Hispanic, and you're going through this whole process of coming out and dealing with family and rejection, you lose that relationship with God if you had one. We know today that a lot of LGBTQ are looking for some sense of spirituality. Sometimes they're confused with different messages from different faith-based organizations. And so back then it was very, very important to us. And so as we continued to move forward, our agency started to build. And today I have to tell you two big things that's happened this year. Number one, if you follow the Chinese calendar, because somebody reminds me all the time, because I could be very fiery. I was born in the year of the dragon. Chinese calendar. But I just recently celebrated 35 years of sobriety. And thank you. And our organization is celebrating its 30th anniversary. And so what I try to do in everything that we do as an organization today is to talk about health issues and those that are underserved in the community with a spiritual lens. That's what's really important, and people really gravitate towards that. Today, we provide HIV prevention and testing, substance use prevention services to the gay and Hispanic community and underserved populations in this area, SPA 4 and SPA 7, which is Southeast Los Angeles. We also provide mental health prevention services to the Hispanic and the LGBTQ community. We provide also, we're working with UCLA and Cedars around cancer research and its impact on the Hispanic community. And I am the co-chair of their advisory board there at Cedars. And I'm glad to say, and I'd love to bring them sometime in the future, as Cedars coming out for the first time ever on this side of the country with a mobile testing van to test people for lung cancer. And this is really unique, but I think it's well needed. We're seeing those numbers skyrocket. We have 2 offices, one in Boyle Heights on First Street, one in downtown, which is on 6th and Flower. And we're just moving into our 3rd office right on Spring Street and 3rd. And so through the years, we have worked. We've also had a contract for 15 years in providing health prevention services, HIV prevention services to the faith-based community. And that was a result of research that we conducted with a researcher out of Cal State Long Beach, and where we looked at the responses from the ministers from the faith-based community, the congregants, and then we were able to identify those folks that were HIV positive. And how did they view faith-based? How did they view their pastors? That was amazing experience, and the only one that has been done. We still have to upload it to our website because it's great information. But we've also, for 15 years, outreach to over 1,000 churches in Los Angeles County, talking to them about HIV and seeing how they could shortcut themselves into addressing HIV. We helped create ministries in some of the churches back then. And for many years, we held an annual conference at the California Endowment called the Conference on Mental Health HIV in Los Angeles. And so, you know, I think that today as an individual, I have been able to learn a lot in my older age, right? Is that sometimes when you get to a certain place in life, you don't have to scream as much as anymore. You don't have to holler. You don't have to bang on doors. They come to you and they say, you know, what can we do for you? Or can you come and teach us? We do a lot of social justice, a lot of organizing. We've been very supportive to Unite Here for many years, especially when Maria Elena de Rosso was the president over there at the union. We just finished a gathering at City of San Gabriel because there was some action on Monday night where the city had appointed a commission to address DEI issues, and the commission came back and says, this is what you could do for the LGBTQ community. Let's create a sticker you could put on the storefronts if the storefronts want it. Just say all is welcome with a rainbow flag. And the council didn't like that. And so they just dismissed the commission last Monday. So we organized a press conference, and we were able to work with some of the coalition leaders in San Gabriel. We turned out about 85, 100 people last Monday night. And so we're a little different. Another thing I wanted to tell you, we respond to crises. And so back in the day, it was 1998, where we were asked to support a movement in Tijuana, Mexico, because there was an AIDS hospice that was being closed down by the Mexican government. And we thought this was completely homophobic. So we went down to Tijuana. We spent like a week there talking. And a long story, because the politics down there was a lot different. It's not the same as it is on this side of the border. Cultures are completely different. The politics are different, so are the people. But we were able to work with the health department down there and with the community, and they reopened up the hospice. And for many years, we would take them mattresses for the beds, food, use medications because they weren't getting medications back there. And so we would take those medications. And so back in 1989, they renamed the hospice after us. So it's called Albergue Las Memorias. It's on the way to Tecate from Tijuana. And today they have about 175 people living there. I would say there were about 40 or 50% of them are HIV. The other 40, 50% are in recovery from drugs and alcohol. And so we've been able to really have an impact across the border internationally on the work that we do. And so I think that for me, I want to just share that, my vision for community. This is my vision, is being with people like you. I remember my mom and my aunts would sit around the table, right? And they'd talk about how the old days were, right? And now I find myself doing that, right? But I remember when our life was a lot easier, that our life was less struggle, that we didn't have shootings every day. We didn't have so many people that didn't have homes. Not everybody were using drugs. Not everybody were driving crazy down the street and kill people and then run. I remember because I'm a student of politics, the conflicts with the Soviet bloc, but we didn't have what we're seeing today. And so as I tell anybody in my staff, and I try to share as much with my staff members, and I have to tell you, you got to be careful what you ask for God, because what I've asked for God is an amazing staff, and I have an amazing staff, not only here, but the staff that are back in the offices that are at conferences today. But I get to mentor them, and I get to share with them, some of life's experiences and how we can go further, and how we can be more respectful and engaging, and how we can connect with God. Because to me, God is the answer. It's helped me through my life. In 2000, I was working my tail off like I do every day, but I had to bury both my parents. My mother died of lung cancer in March of 2000. My dad died of Alzheimer's in October of that same year. And I slept at nights at the hospital with my mom. It's difficult, right? But there was a blessing in it. And I get to share that with people, that when you lose someone, or you find challenges in your personal life, that those are gifts, right? The crisis is a gift. Our job is to learn what that gift is. And today I'm the verge of getting married to my partner of 10 years. He's a spiritual life coach. Well, let me just tell you, and then I'm going to start wrapping this up. So I pray for a lot of folks. But about 11 years ago, I remember, after a bad relationship, somebody a lot younger than me, I asked God, I said, I always ask for everybody else, but I need to find someone because I want to settle down. So I was up in Berkeley. I was part of this Latino roundtable around LGBTQ and faith, how to address LGBT and faith. And I came across this man called Joselito. He was Filipino. And we had a conversation, and then I said, okay, goodbye. And so it took a few years, and then we came across each other again in Berkeley, and we had small talk, and we went on a date. And that was the beginning of the relationship. And so today we're getting married very soon, which has been a dream. And we go and I love to challenge people, because I've been asked in media, how could you be Catholic and gay? And my response is that I remember there was a day, I remember the conference, the Democratic Midterm Conference in 1978 in Memphis, where there was no gay caucus in the Democratic Convention. Democrats would not allow that. And so I was asked to help organize, help spread the word and get petitions signed. But I couldn't do that because I was still in the closet. But my heart was with them. I remember the tough times. And I tell people, you never run away from a fight. You organize from within, you infiltrate, and you change systems. So today, we go to the cathedral down of Our Lady of the Angels. We sit right in the front row on the side of the altar where everyone can see. We have 2 seats that we sit there every Sunday. And when the sign of peace comes, and we have a conservative archbishop there, we kiss right on the lips. And I have to tell you, two reasons why we sit there. One, because I will never sit in the back of the church again for fear or shame. And 2, we need to model to other people. Other people need to see that it's okay. And we've had so many family members come up and ask, you know, how do I handle this with my husband? But my son wants to bring his son to mass, but he's afraid what the father's going to say, you know? And so we help and we console and we show that we are present. And so I think that's what we all need to do as we live our lives, is to continue to be respectful, to take care of each other, to know that there's always that guiding light from the heavens above, but always never be afraid of who we are and who we worship, but also be vocal about what we want to see in this world. So with that, I think we have time for questions. So with that, I just want to share that with all of you. I hope I was of some benefit this afternoon, but thank you so much for allowing me to be here. Yes.
Richard, I'm rushing. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to leave. I've got some grandkids to pick up over at Dolores Mission right now. I'm so happy to hear how you've spread out and everything that you've done since the last time we met and talked. And I have a question. If you might consider, since you're on the board at Cedar Sinai, looking into what is happening concerning people who are on the list for transplants who are people of color. And the only reason that comes to mind is because it's a personal thing. I've got my daughter-in-law, my daughter's wife, and she's on a waiting list. And they switched medical plans, and they're at Cedar Sinai, and they say it's great. But in doing all the research, we're finding more and more people are being dropped to the bottom of the list, and they're dying on that list. So just maybe something that affects the people of color. And the other thing is, you're probably going to be hearing from me because Dolores Mission is trying to get an LGBTQIA ministry going, and it's by hiccups. And I think hearing you would be great because no one there has even gone to visit the LGBT QIA community center that Eddie Martinez started just 3 blocks away. So thank you.
Thank you. I will keep that note. And if there's anything we could do with Dolores Mission, we also are funded by the county to provide mental health prevention services. We provide toolkit training for free around LGBTQ. So we get to learn what our pronouns are all about, how to create safe spaces. So we could provide that training. Okay. Yes, sir.
Richard, thanks so much for coming by today. It was wonderful to hear what you had to say. My name's Dennis, and last July, I lost my partner of 35 years to a epidemic that is still, it's raging through the gay community, and that's methamphetamines. Do you guys do anything to support, to educate, to assist people to stop their usage?
So first of all, let me express my condolences to you. Yes, we do provide, we do a lot of things. I'll talk to you about our prevention services and then part of our organizing experience. We provide substance use prevention around meth and opiates and other drugs in our offices. So we can talk about how we do that. And then the second thing, and we could always use your help, right? The second thing is because the county, during the pandemic, the county, everybody was shut down, but we weren't. We were shut down. We were not in the office, but we were working from home. So we recreated the Act Now Against Meth Coalition. And what we did, we brought together 22 organizations and UCLA. We had a number of virtual meetings and we had town halls with over 200 people attending town halls. And we came up with 32 recommendations that we presented to the LA County Board of Supervisors. And we created the platform. Those recommendations reflect what we think should be done around prevention, treatment, and policy and meth. And so we went to the board, they came back, they're still working through some of those issues, how to deliver treatment services. So we're creating change there. Two is we also we hosted a meeting for the county health professionals through Senator Feinstein's office, a meeting with the Office of National Drug Policy out of the President Biden's office. Because before the Senator Feinstein left office, she created the Office of Stimulant Use that would address issues like meth on a national level. And third, just want to let everyone know, and I'd love for you to be part of this, is that we're putting together a planning committee, right, Monica? We're going to have a conference on crystal meth and opioids and fentanyl in LA at the California Endowment. So we want to be able to make sure that we're addressing that. And then, so that's a lot of the response that I can give you. It is fentanyl, the opiates, methamphetamine is killing people. I know a lot of our gay community has been suffering through that. And that's how you contract many times HIV and other diseases. We also, for communities, for your information, we do town halls. So we did one at Salesian High School in Boyle Heights, which was amazing. We had about 250 people turn out, and another one in the city of Bell. And what we do is we'll come in, we'll bring in someone from the public health department, and we'll have a panel discussion with people who've used drugs, family members who are being affected, and also recovery or resources. And we'll talk about it, and then we'll do a complete presentation on what these drugs look like. So if anybody's interested, you can talk. Monica's back there. There's a reason why she's here, I guess. She is our manager of substance use programs, but we can do that anywhere you would like. But I do want to get you on our planning committee. Thank you. Anybody else?
Thank you so much, Richard. This has been so enlightening, and I appreciate you sharing your personal story as well. That really gives it heart. And I want to just say that the First Congregational Church of Los Angeles at 6th and Commonwealth is having the Gay Men's Choir this Sunday at 4 o'clock. It's a free event, and then they're going to have Vox Femina next month. But I think music touches the soul, and these men sing so wonderfully. So thank you for your talk today.
Thank you.
What? Yes.
So, yes.
We have a question on Zoom. Anne is asking, is there any outreach to adolescents from your organization as they are particularly at risk for lack of support and understanding if they are gay or trans or non-binary?
Yes. I guess the person's Anna. And so, yes, Anne, we do have programs. We have a few programs. Again, the mental health prevention that we have is called TAY. It's defined as TAY, which is Transitional Age Youth. We have support groups for young people to address, to deal with their sexuality. We also have support groups in that program to work with parents who may have questions or need more information. And we also provide that same kind of toolkit training to community-based organizations and churches if they would like that. But yes, we have programs. The other part to that, we also have substance use programs where young people are engaged and they can learn more about what substances are and how to deal with substances in high school when people are being approached, whether you want to do this kind of drug. So we have a very robust programs, a number of programs working with youth. So the answer is yes. To anybody who needs information about that, I'll give you Monica's email. It's Monica, MONICA Reyes, REYES at twlmp.org. Now, if you need a phone number is 323-257-1056, extension 33. So please reach out. We're there to help. I have a wonderful team that really is in the community that are just creating incredible work. So please reach out.
Richard, might you introduce your staff? I should have done that or given you an opportunity to do that earlier. Could you introduce who's here with you today?
So I have, so some of these staff members, a few of them are new. And that's why I wanted to make sure they were here. I have some staff members that are in Seattle at a conference, at a biomedical prevention conference, which is PrEP. We can talk about PrEP too if you want. And then I have folks that are working on different programs that they're working throughout the weekend. So I have over here Patrick. Want to raise your hand? He's with us now almost 2 months. He's the director of development for our organization. As you heard, Monica Reyes, she's celebrating her first anniversary with us. And she is our manager of substance use programs. And Joseph Ortega is a longtime supporter and friend. He came back from Washington, took care of came back to take care of his parents. And he's an amazing gentleman who's my assistant in the office, and he scrambles. He really runs fast to keep up with me sometimes. But they're amazing part of our team.
Hi, it's not, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, it's not really a question. I just want to say thank you. I'm really happy that I got to hear your message. And like my best friend was here last month and he would have been here this month, but I really wish he would have heard your message because me and him got into this big thing about spirituality and versus religion. But I think if he would have heard your message, you know, when he asked me the difference, for me, my definition is, and I said, not that I'm not religious, but I was telling him that my journey was different from his because he took a religious journey and mine was more spiritual. And he was like, you know, he doesn't like the word spiritual. And to me, he said, what's the difference? And I just told him that, you know, most religious people are scared of going to hell. And spiritual people, I said, we've been there. We've been through something in our lives, you know, that make us see. So, but he didn't get, but if you had heard your message, I think you would have got it. But I just thank you for coming.
Thank you. And thank you for clarifying that. Yeah, I love that. And some people ask me, what's the difference between religion and spirituality? I think it depends on the person, on the individual. I just see religion, the various religions, that it's a pathway to connecting with a higher power through tradition. But spirituality for me is really digging deep inside your spirit and connecting to a higher spirit. And sometimes they intercede, the intersection there, and sometimes they don't. But I think everybody wants to be part of something.
Oh, I'm sorry. My higher power, it was like, he wasn't getting it, you know?
Yeah.
And I said, but because for my journey, well, I had a lot of anger towards God, so I had to go another way, and I did it through a 12-step program. But, and so when I was trying to explain that to him, he just wasn't getting it, you know? It's not that, for me, I was raised Baptist, you know, and it was just so much judgment, so
Yeah.
much judging. And, you know, to me, I've been discriminated against all my life, you know,
Mhm.
and so I had to get away from that, you know, and I took a spiritual journey through the 12-step program. You know, to me, that was the best thing I ever done. And thank you again.
Thank you. Anybody else? So I just want to say to all of you, in my parting remarks, I think, thank you for having me here today and having this safe, quiet space, a space with humanity, and knowing that, you know, outside of these walls, we will travel. We may not see each other again or for a while, but know that we're together in one union, and knowing that we have a lot of work and a lot of prayer to do, because we need to address the many ills of society and of the world. We can't back away. We always have to speak up. We always have to lean on something greater than ourselves. It's really important. And so I just want to say, as I tell everybody, as I tell young people, when I talk at schools, that when you come into to this world, our job is to find out why we're here. And once we find out why we're here, move forward and do it before your life ends, because you only have one shot at life. So God's been good to me. God's been good to me because I'm all with you today. Thank you for allowing me to be here, and have a wonderful afternoon. Oh, by the way, I want you to know that you can go to our website. Every year, December 1st is World AIDS Day, and we add names to the AIDS monument. Anybody who passed away from AIDS can put their name on there for free. And that evening, we have a beautiful night of remembrance, of music, of song, of community. It's free. December 1st is cold, but we have a tent with heaters. So we're going to make sure we come back to you to outreach to you, but utilize that space and utilize us, because we're here to serve. Thank you, and God bless you.
Wow. Thank you, Richard, for sharing your vulnerability, sharing your story about your journey. Um, what I sense is that your direct connection to God through your spirituality is what has guided your success, and you have become God's hands and feet on the ground. And we're honored to have you here, and really you're the epitome of what we're calling our local change agent hero. And so I'm so pleased that we got to hear you today. I hope we can find a way to go visit the wall. I think that's maybe, Michelle, I don't know if you want to talk about that. But thank you, and blessings on your journey. And thanks everybody for coming. Did you have more to say, or I don't?
If you'd like more information and interest for joining the community, and there's also, yes, and then there's a form if you have suggestions for other people, other subjects that you'd like to learn about, you could fill that out. Gigi, this is, well, for all of you, this is recorded so you can share it with your friend. So your friend can hear Richard's talk. And I want to acknowledge our Zoom participants also. Thank you for being part of this, and for your questions. And any other questions? Our next lunch and learner is on May 17th, and we're going to learn about food rescue and redistribution from the executive director of the Hollywood Food Coalition. They have been addressing food scarcity in Hollywood for 27 years. And so Anali Ray will be here to share more about that, but you'll be on our mailing list. Check our website. I know we had even someone who found us on social media. And we're going to have a better presence, so you'll be able to see what we've got going on. And thanks again, Richard, for that inspiring message and for bringing your team. We'll be in touch to organize a day to come and visit. There's more food, take a snack, and I think that's it. Thank you, everybody.